Ida for not letting my in-laws help me with the baby when they left me for natural selection. I, 21F, have a 7-month-old son with my boyfriend. My family, who lives abroad, is coming over to stay and help out during Christmas. For now, my mother-in-law and father-in-law, Deborah and Bob, both in their 60s, are assisting me with household tasks and taking care of the baby. So far, we haven't had any real issues, and they've been a massive help, that is, until about 3 weeks ago, I fell down the stairs. I wasn't holding the baby, thankfully, so he was safe. However, instead of helping me, Deborah and Bob both jumped to comfort the baby, who was crying, and left me at the bottom of the stairs. My legs were fine, but I was wobbly due to shock, and I asked one of them to help me up. After nearly 10 entire minutes of being ignored, I managed to stand up on my own and hobble through to the living room. I sat down, and Deborah asked, "What's happened to you? Are you okay?" I'll admit, I saw red. I just said, "I fell down the stairs, didn't you hear me calling you for help?" Deborah's eyes widened, and she claimed she was too busy fussing over the baby. After about an hour, my arm was swelling up, so I rushed to the hospital. Luckily, it was nothing serious, and the recovery time would be fast. After my boyfriend got home and his parents left, I told him I no longer wanted their help after today's events. That I'll manage on my own, even though it'll be hard. He was taken aback and said, "But they've done a lot for us." I expressed gratitude for all they had done, but really emphasized that they ignored me crying and calling them for 10 minutes after I fell down the stairs. They don't care about me, they only care about the baby, and I was embarrassed I didn't see it sooner. He called his parents to let them know we wouldn't need their help anymore, and his dad said, "Is it about today?" We really didn't hear her. My boyfriend just told them they're invited to Sunday roast this week, and that's all. I could tell he was not happy about my decision, but he said he went along with it because I'm the mother. Fast forward to Sunday, and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law are there as well. Sister-in-law has a 3-year-old and is totally on my side, but brother-in-law is not. He told me to be grateful for his parents' support, as they're significantly more well-off than my parents, and have paid for many of the newborn expenses, and that they're planning to cover more as the baby grows. Since then, Deborah keeps calling, asking if we need any help, and says she feels awful not seeing both of us, and that she misses the baby. Am I wrong for not wanting them to help me in my day-to-day life? Additional edit. Was the baby crying loudly enough that there is a possibility they didn't hear you? There's absolutely no way. The baby stopped crying after 10 seconds, and the stairs are like 2 meters from the living room. There is absolutely no way they couldn't have heard me scream as I fell, the general noise of someone falling, including books falling and wall plates breaking, and me crying and shouting for help. I fell at the top of the stairs and fell all the way down. This wasn't a misstep and a shuffle down that hurt my pelvic bone. I fully fell down the stairs and cracked the banister, so there is no way they didn't hear me. The baby also only started crying after the initial smack when I hit the ground. Update 1. A few more weeks went by with selective visits from my in-laws. I read a lot of comments speculating on why they didn't hear me or check on me, but ultimately, I needed my space. Regardless of the reason, they didn't seem like responsible babysitters. I want to make it clear that I never intended to go no contact or even low contact. I just didn't feel comfortable with them helping out. They became increasingly more worried about the baby, and I turned to my sister-in-law, Fiona, 30F, for advice as I felt she was the only one who understood me. She told me that when her daughter was an infant, the in-laws were pretty hands-on too, but only with the baby. It was like she wasn't even there. She shared a story where she straight up went and stood in the garden for 30 minutes, and they didn't notice she was gone, like they were only there for the baby. She said that we were luckier because they paid for some postpartum stuff for me, but for Fiona, it was just stuff for the baby, which she accepted and was grateful for, but she was completely ignored by them. She said that by her daughter's 3rd birthday, they started to taper off, mainly because my son was born. She is still mostly ignored by them, though. Now things started to click. It became clear that they just want a baby to fuss over, and the mother doesn't really matter to them. It didn't truly explain the logistics of their reaction to my accident, but a lot of things have made sense. I told my boyfriend, and we had a big discussion about boundaries. Fiona also asked to come along for moral support and to speak her piece. My boyfriend always had a hard time saying no to people and keeping boundaries, but we've agreed to fully commit. We invited the in-laws over to discuss some stuff. I told them that I felt confused and upset by their reaction. I explained what Fiona had told me, and how it's not okay for them to ignore the mothers, and that they shouldn't do it to my other brother-in-law's girlfriend if they ever decide to have kids. Fiona also said her part and stuck up for me when either one of them tried to interrupt or twist the truth. Deborah was clearly very uncomfortable and kept trying to interject with her side while we were talking, but she eventually listened to us. She told us her side. Apparently, she was neglected by Bob's side of the family, and they hated her for being poor. For context, Bob is old money, and Deborah grew up in a poor village. She also said she grew up with 5 younger brothers, took care of them all, and never learned how to communicate with other women, as she never got a good education or had friends because she was a caretaker. Obviously, I was extremely sympathetic to all this. My boyfriend had briefly mentioned that Deborah was also abused by her own parents, but never went into detail. I then asked both of them about the stair incident. Deborah said she didn't care about it in the moment and assumed I'd be fine, because in her perspective, if I was crying, then that meant I was alive. I was taken aback by her response. It honestly took everything in me to not storm off. My boyfriend told her that that was a callous answer, and that not all problems, specifically medical, are immediately present, and I still had to go to the hospital afterward due to the swelling. Bob stopped him and said they thought the baby had fallen out of the crib, which is why they went to him after he started crying. I said I understood that, but it would take maybe 10 seconds to check and see he was okay, so what were they doing for the other 10 minutes? Unfortunately, we didn't really get anywhere regarding the stairs incident. They both believe they didn't do much wrong because of how much financial support they provide. I told them that I am not comfortable with them taking care of the baby if they can't understand why what they did was upsetting and wrong. On the positive side, I guess I now understand Deborah's motivations a bit more. It explains a lot about her character. We're not going no contact or low contact, and they can still come over for visits, but I've told my boyfriend he also needs to be there as they seem to listen to him and not me. But before I go, I just want to say that I have no issue with standing up for myself. There's a lot of personal details and context that I left out, but we have our reasons for not going no contact or low contact with them. People seem to think that because I have the capability to understand and empathize with my mother-in-law's past abuse, I'm letting it slide. That is not true. I simply said it explains her better. I don't really know what I expected. I thought this sub's users would be different from most other subs because of how nice the comments are on YouTube. Guess I was wrong. I won't be coming back here lol.